If one Googles the question, "What is environmental justice?" the first site to appear is that of the EPA, or the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Here, environmental justice is defined as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. After learning this definition, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with me? Well, environmental justice is important to everyone because when there is inequity or difference in treatment, in urban and environmental planning, people's daily lives and futures are affected. Environmental justice has become a movement that fights for a safe and clean community for all, regardless of their economic background. It also fights for social justice by demanding we take notice of how our urban environment affects public health. One of the first steps to working towards environmental justice, though, is taking time to understand the history of discriminatory planning practices in the U.S. These unfair practices are largely responsible for the long-standing environmental injustices communities still face today. So how did discriminatory urban and environmental planning shape our cities and neighborhoods? This discrimination and inequity arose with a practice known as redlining. So what is redlining? According to the New York Times, the term has come to mean racial discrimination of any kind in housing, but it originally comes from government maps that outlined areas where Black residents lived and were therefore deemed risky investments. One of the most visible parts of redlining can be seen in the tree canopy. Although this practice legally ended in the 1970s, the injustices of nearly 40 years of this segregatory practice can still be seen in the trees and green spaces around us. Formerly redlined neighborhoods have far fewer trees than those that were not redlined. In 92% of U.S. communities, low-income neighborhoods have less tree cover than high-income neighborhoods. This unfortunate truth extends to race as well. In 67% of U.S. communities, POC neighborhoods have less tree cover than white neighborhoods, even after accounting for trends in income. Additionally, research has shown that in most American cities, richer, predominantly white households have relocated to the suburbs, where there are larger lots with higher tree cover. This has left low-income families to live in cities, where there are smaller lots that have more pavement and fewer trees. Therefore, those people living in once redlined areas cannot experience all the health and life benefits that trees have to offer. Trees have become critical infrastructure for our neighborhoods. They provide the environmental, social, economic, and public health building blocks that every community, urban or rural, needs. One of the biggest results of discriminatory planning is the creation of urban heat islands. These heat islands are areas with very few trees, very little shade, and a built environment that soaks up heat. Research has estimated that the cooling shade of trees in American cities save around 1,200 lives a year when high heat events threaten our well-being. And as communities continue to be impacted by climate change, this number can be expected to rise. Yet, due to inequity in tree cover throughout cities, most of these lives saved are in high-income, predominantly non-Hispanic white neighborhoods. This leaves people of color and other minority groups unprotected and therefore at higher risk. If we work together, we can change this trend and relieve those communities of the effects of urban heat islands and the related public health challenges. Trees are here to save the lives of all, not just the privileged. Although much damage has been done, we are determined to reverse the impacts of discriminatory planning practices of the past and work towards a better future. We can start to make a difference. Getting involved with organizations like Tree Davis and the Sacramento Tree Foundation can be a great first step in supporting environmental justice in our neighborhoods through planting trees. Studies have estimated that the U.S. would have to increase the size of its urban forests by 62 million trees across cities to bring low-income neighborhoods up to the tree cover in comparable high-income neighborhoods. Although this sounds daunting, it starts with each of us planting a tree with intent. We know that trees save lives by cleaning the air we breathe, by keeping us cool in the heat, by keeping us active, and by calming us down. But not everyone lives under the comforting blanket of our community canopy. To further explore tree cover in your area, check out the map from American Forests on treeequityscore.org. This mapping tool helps you understand disparity in canopy cover visually and how it affects entire communities. To further explore environmental justice in communities across California, you can make use of other mapping tools like this one, called Cal EnviroScreen, which is used by the California Environmental Protection Agency to administer environmental justice-related grants. Maps like this one help you see where environmental hazards and pollution are concentrated. Finally, if you care to explore more, you can also see if your city has a publicly available tree database that records the types of trees that make up our community's tree canopy. Lastly, help us grow our tree community in the places that need it most while fighting global climate change. To learn how you can get involved, and to see when we are planting more trees in your neighborhood, or to watch more videos like this one, please visit treedavis.org.